Hello world of YouTube, and welcome to my Primus Discography review. This is part 1, the LPs. This was filmed way back when I had longer hair, and I should have probably done intros for all of these to kind of give you a little bit of a preface to this, but I had shot an intro originally for it on my webcam. I can't find that video anymore, and so yeah, basically I just talk about the LPs in this one. My hair's pulled back, so you can't see it really. But I cover Frizzle Fry, Sailing the Seas of Cheese, Pork Soda, Tales from the Punch Bowl, the Brown Album, and Anti-Pop in this video. There's an EPs video that'll be linked on the television most likely, or in the corner at some point, or this corner actually, because that's the best natural transition spot is up here. But I hope you guys enjoy this review from way back when this was the first split discography review that I had ever done, and I didn't split it like I normally do. But yeah, let's start the shindig.
Hello world of YouTube, I'm making my on-screen return with a discography review, and I'm doing one of my favorite bands, Primus. Now, if you've never listened to Primus, I hate you a little, but I understand, because they're not very known nowadays, since, you know, they haven't done anything in 11 years. But to best describe their sound, they're like if Faith No More knocked up Pink Floyd and they had a God Baby. It's heavy at times, it's weird at times, it's spacey, it's psychedelic, it's awesome. And they also have the best bassist in the world in the band, Les Claypool. Now you can dispute it all you want, but he is. Les Claypool is the best bassist in the world, hands down. They have 6 LPs and 4 EPs, so I will try to get through all of this as quick as I can, but I don't know. Let's get started, though. And the first album they released is called Frizzle Fry, and that was released in 1990. And if I were to recommend an album for anyone who wants to listen to Primus, it would be this one. And that's because it really shows their roots as a band sound-wise. I mean, they really develop a signature sound. Like, if you hear a Primus song, you know it's a Primus song. But they do expand that sound quite a bit as they go along, but it still has the roots of this. And, I mean, it's got a variety of stuff while still staying Primacy. Like, each song kind of goes into, like, there's a heavy song with, like, Toys Go Winding Down is kind of heavy, but it's also kind of weird. And then there's songs like Too Many Puppies, which are just heavy with an interesting message. And, I mean, you just got a variety of stuff. John the Fisherman was probably the most popular song on here, thanks to Guitar Hero for that. It has a song that means a lot to me from my childhood, Mr. Know-It-All, because as a kid, I listened to Primus, because my mom likes Primus, but she would always limit what I listened to, because Primus has interesting lyrical content, so she didn't want me to, like, I don't know, get a bad message out of some of the songs. So, really, one of the few songs in the sound that I had ever heard as a kid was Mr. Know-It-All. It's got it opens like their live album did, because before this they had a live album, but it's not really something to talk about on here. But they opened this like they did their live album that came out before this, and how they opened it was they played a little bit of YYZ by Rush, but in this they only played the intro to YYZ, and then right when the rest of the instruments kick in, it fades out and it cuts in with to Defy the Laws of Tradition. And that's a good song too. It's a great opening. It's very just starts off chill, and then it gets, like, aggressive and heavy, but and then it gets kind of weird, and then it gets, like, back to the heaviness. There's really no specific way to define Primus besides, you know, it's Primus, or the Faith No More, God Baby type thing. But, yeah. My favorite song off the album is probably Mr. Know-It-All, just because I hold a lot of dear memories with that song. And the second album they released was called Sailing the Seas of Cheese, and that was released back in 1991. And I wouldn't be wrong to say that this is Primus' most popular album, because it has a lot of their really, really popular songs. That's my favorite Primus song on it, American Life. But, I mean, Tommy the Cat is popular. It was used in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. No, it was one of the Bill and Ted movies. It might have been Excellent Adventure. But, Jerry's Race Car Driver is on this album, and that's probably, like, their most popular song ever, if not that. My Name is Mud, but that's on the next album. It's just got a slew of popular stuff, but it's still, again, Primacy. They can write a good popular song while keeping their style very intact. still got some of those weird songs, like Is It Luck has an interesting bass line on it. It's got the weird interludes like Frizzle Fry had, like Grandpa's Little Ditty. It has the second song in the Fisherman's Chronicles, Fish On, the first one being John the Fisherman. Les Claypool likes to write about the ocean. Even in his solo work, he does write about the ocean a lot. It's a phenomenal follow-up. It's just... wow. It's got phenomenal... I'm not going to talk about the playing much, actually, because it's all just spectacular. It's just great stuff after great stuff by them playing-wise. They're all talented musicians. The lyrical content, it still kind of has some of those underlying messages, like American Life. It's about how people are treated in America poorly, having to go through Ellis Island and all that stuff when they come to this country. There's a story about a veteran. It's interesting to hear how what Les writes about, because on the first album he wrote about like Too Many Puppies, which was like about dogs of war, and then he continues kind of the war-ish message with a song that contains stuff about a veteran that like is treated like crap after he comes back. It's just interesting. Les is an interesting person. I wrote a paper about him in school, and yeah, it was interesting to read up about him. There's really nothing else I can say about the album. It's just phenomenal. My favorite song is American Life. And the next album they released, the next full album they released, was called Pork Soda, and that was released in 1993. And this album is a good expansion on their sound. They actually draw kind of elements from the EP, and they make it a little more different. It's got a lot more darker lyrical content. Like My Name is Mud, one of the most popular songs, is about a guy killing his best friend. Song Bob's about a guy killing himself. I think Nature Boy's about being secluded from society. It's some darker stuff for Primus, but it still retains that somewhat trippy, kind of heavy, good stuff. It has a long instrumental on it called Hamburger Train, and it's pretty solid of an instrumental. It shows that they can jam pretty friggin' well. It shows their talent as musicians. Some of the songs on here are just really spacey, and it's quite a listen. If you want to listen to it, I'd listen to, again, Frizzle Fry first, and then this one, because it's got drone guitars in some songs, like on DMV. My favorite song on the album, tough. I'm looking at the track listing on iTunes here, because I'm listening to it off my iPod, and it's tough to think of my favorite song off this album. It's probably either Mr. Crinkle or maybe Welcome to This World. Yeah, that's a good song too. Oh, also, Les plays cello on the song Mr. Crinkle, something he didn't do on the other albums. So, yeah, cello by the Claypool showing his musical diversity skills, playing the cello, Mr. Crinkle, which is also a really good song. Next album they released is called Tales from the Punch Bowl, and that was released in 1995. And this is the last album to feature longtime drummer Tim Alexander. He left the band after this, and then he joined later on, and then he left again. He's not in the band anymore. They got the original drummer Jay Lane. Probably should have talked about that in the intro, but whatever. This album is another step forward from the sound-wise, and they really expand their sound. Like, they add twangy guitars on Winona's Big Brown Beaver. They have more jammy, more of a jam band sound on some songs, like very just expanded on their psychedelicness to a jam bandish on Southbound Pachyderm, and kind of on Professor Nutterbutt's House of Trees. Like, the longer songs are kind of those jammy songs. It's got the weird interludes again with Space Farm, weird, and outros with another weird type interlude type thing with Captain Shiner. It has a banjo like Pork Soda did on Deanza Jig, which Deanza High School was the high school that Les Claypool went to. The lyrical content is again interesting, with Southbound Pachyderm being about poaching and how it's like wrong and stuff. Mrs. Violin being about a teacher who does something with her students. I don't know. It's something to do with like she teases the kids, something like that. It's got Winona's Big Brown Beaver, which is kind of a hee-hee, it's a double entendre, because in the video she has a pet beaver, but it's also a beaver, like the vagina. The playing is, again, it's always solid. My favorite song on this album is Over the Electric Grapevine, which is like a psychedelic jam about being on LSD. But it's a great song. It's again one of those it's a trippy song, but it's awesome. Yeah, Over the Electric Grapevine. And the next album they released was called The Brown Album, that was released in 1997, and if I had to pick a least favorite Primus album, it'd be this one. It's not a terrible album by any means. I don't know, it's different. It's very, I don't know, the sound's kind of left field. It still has some Primus sounding songs like Shake Hands with Beef, and the intro, the return of Sollington Willoughby, who was a character that made his first appearance on Fizzlefry. But I mean, it's got a different feel to it. It's definitely just a left field album. Like it's very drum heavy. The percussion is very much more of a forefront, and that might have been because Brain Mantra, or however you say his last name, he joined the band, and he was the drummer when this album was when they made this album. And that's probably one of the reasons why I don't like it, because I mean, I'm used to Primus being very bass heavy, and the drums are kind of the forefront of this album. Not that Tim wasn't put in the shadows, and neither was Larry, but I mean, the drums just kind of seem to overpower the other instruments. It has a swingy, jazzy feel to it, like on songs like Over the Falls, and Fisticuffs kind of, and Kalamazoo. They just have that kind of swingy feel, which is good. It just sounds a little weird for them to do that style. My favorite song on the album is probably either Golden Boy or Puddingtane. Maybe Shakin' Hands with Beef. No, it's Golden Boy. Golden Boy is my favorite song off this album. I would still recommend this album, just don't go into it with the same mindset that you've had for the first three, because it is a very different album, or at least the first four, because it's a left field sound, very just different. But yeah, Golden Boy, favorite song. And the next album they released was called Antipop, and that was released in 1999. Now, this is the last LP that they put out, and it's also the last album featuring Brain on drums. And this album puts them back in their place sound-wise. Like, it expands it along with keeping it very much more Primacy. It's very just epic. There's a lot of epic sound to it, and it's somewhat heavier, but that could have been because they had guest producers on this album for the first time, I think, ever. I think the rest of their albums were produced just by Primus. But they also had Tom Morello, James Hetfield, Fred Durst helped produce, but it also had guest musicians. It had Tom Waits on the intro and the last song. They had Tom Morello performing guitars on 3 tracks. They had James he spoke during one of the songs. Kirk Hammett did guitar on one of the songs, and Jim Root did guitar on the same song that James and Kirk were on. And that song, Eclectic Electric, is an amazing song. It's the longest song on the album, actual song, but it's awesome. It has a hidden track on it, The Heckler, which was only a live track until then. It was on the live album, Stuck on This. And out of the 2 tracks that had not been done yet in the studio, this and the other one being You Like It, I would have much rather seen You Like It, but The Heckler is a great song. I just like You Like It more. Like I said before, it goes back to the Primacy sound, but the bass has somewhat of a different sound to it on some songs, like on Final Voyage of the Liquid Sky, and on, there's a couple of other songs where it sounds like that. And it's a great return to form for them. The lyrical content has some of that, underlyingness to it, like Electric Uncle Sam and Natural Joe. Lockerhead being an anti-drug song. It's a really great album. Some of the songs, like Final Voyage of the Liquid Sky, kind of go back to that trippy psychedelicness that was very Floydian. It's very Floydian, but it's epic. It's an epic song. And the final song, Coattails of a Dead Man, is very odd. It's very carnival-y, if that was a word. It's very carnival-y. my favorite song is actually Eclectic Electric, because it is a long, epic song. If you want to listen to one song of this album, listen to Eclectic Electric. In fact, I'll put a link to it in the under thingy. Check it out. It's a really good song. In fact, I'll start putting links in the under thingy to my favorite songs off of each album, because you need to hear these songs, especially if you've never listened to Primus before. So yeah, I'll start putting links to my favorite songs in the under thingy. But yeah, my favorite off of this album is Eclectic Electric.